Millionaire returns home believing everything was in order, but upon looking toward street, surprises his little one rummaging through trash, with broken voice confessing something that leaves him breathless. What he discovers in that instant will change his life forever. What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. And before continuing, let me wish you health and peace. Tell me, from which country and at what time are you watching this story? Door slam resonated throughout house in upscale neighborhood like muffled thunder, but nobody came out to greet him. Julian Herrera left keys on white marble table next to Mont Blanc pen he had used hours before to sign $1 million contract. His tired expression spoke more than words. He seemed to carry weight of entire New York on shoulders. Echo of steps mixed with distant murmur of television turned on, signal he wasn't alone, and yet silence wrapped him like coat of ice. He crossed hallway decorated with contemporary painters' paintings and rugs imported from Istanbul. Everything smelled of luxury, success, life built on figures and endless meetings. At end, kitchen door was half open. Julian thought he would find usual there, aroma of freshly made coffee or clinking of silverware. But when he gently pushed door, what he saw pierced him like knife. His daughter Lucia, barely 6 years old, was kneeling before trash bin with little hands buried among stained papers and greasy wrappers. Her dark curls fell over face wet with tears, and on trembling lips appeared piece of hard bread she had rescued from bottom of basket. For instant, Julian believed he was dreaming. He closed and opened eyes, hoping image would dissolve like bad nightmare. But reality remained there, cruel and naked, hitting him in middle of kitchen equipped with Miele appliances and double Siemens refrigerator overflowing with food. Contrast was unbearable, hungry girl searching through leftovers in environment of insulting abundance. Julian remained paralyzed with heart pounding in chest. Not even in worst memories had he imagined something similar. His little one, girl who should receive care and tenderness, searched for food as if she were on streets and not in mansion, with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Lucia was so concentrated on pushing aside peels and remains she didn't perceive father's presence. Her clumsy movements of disarming innocence broke his soul. Julian wanted to speak, but voice shattered before being born. He took step, then another, as if each movement weighed tons. Finally, with dry throat, managed to murmur, "Daughter, what are you doing?" Sound shook everything. Girl turned abruptly, startled, still holding hard bread between little hands. Her large eyes, clouded with fear and shame, fixed on father's. That gaze was like broken mirror reflecting hunger, loneliness, and abandonment. Julian felt knot in throat that almost prevented breathing. Time seemed to stop in that kitchen. Lucia lowered head and between sobs murmured with barely audible voice, "Dad, I'm hungry. Nobody gave me dinner." Those words pierced him like invisible daggers. Each syllable was direct blow to conscience. How could it be? How had he allowed something like this to happen under his own roof? Rolex watches, Mercedes cars in garage, aged wines in cellar. Everything became useless before daughter's hunger. Julian immediately knelt and hugged her tightly, as if wanting to merge with her. He felt fragile little body trembling in arms, while hard bread remained trapped between small fingers, like treasure impossible to release. He tried to say, "Forgive me, daughter," but words drowned in throat. Only thing he could do was hold her tighter until felt tears running uncontrollably down cheeks. Lucia looked at him desperately, like someone finding refuge in middle of storm, and yet, on lips remained phrase that hit him harder than everything before. "It's that when you're not here, she doesn't give me anything." Innocence with which she said it was devastating. There was no resentment, no manipulation, only raw truth of girl suffering in silence. Julian clenched teeth, bitter fire igniting in chest. That confession not only pointed to Elena, woman he had trusted, but also to himself for absence. Echo of empty house amplified confession. Julian raised gaze and noticed how expensive objects, Italian designer coffee maker, fine crystal glasses lined up in sideboard, became mute witnesses of failure as father. World could admire his triumphs, but in that instant he knew he had lost what was essential. Lucia sobbed in arms, and each tear was reminder that money never replaces presence. Julian felt ground opening beneath feet, that everything he had built was crumbling. And yet amid that unbearable pain, Certainty grew. Hour had come to face truth, though it would destroy him. Kitchen air became heavy, and Julian, with jaw clenched, forced himself to stand with daughter in arms. Echo of steps sounded different now, firmer, more decided, as he advanced through hallway toward living room, and what he found there would leave him breathless. Echo of Lucia's words kept thundering in Julian's mind as he crossed hallway with her in arms. "When you're not here, she doesn't give me anything." That phrase, as innocent as devastating, had stuck in a heart like thorn impossible to pull out. Main living room of house in upscale neighborhood received him with same coldness as always. Italian leather sofas, crystal coffee table and chandelier hanging like reminder of success. But all that seemed empty, almost ridiculous, compared to crying still escaping from daughter's chest. On sofa as if nothing occurred, Elena Morales was reclining with phone in hand, scrolling screen with indifference of someone who has everything under control. Julian stood before her, heart palpitating with contained rage. Contrast was unbearable. Daughter in arms, trembling, and woman who should care for her lost in artificial world of social media. For instant, he wanted to believe there was logical explanation, something justifying abandonment. But when he looked in eyes, only found coldness. "What do you have to say about this?" he asked with dry voice, cutting like knife. Elena slowly raised gaze, arching eyebrow with annoyed gesture. She put phone in Louis Vuitton purse resting on sofa and murmured, "She surely exaggerates. Children invent things to get attention. Maybe she didn't want to eat what I prepared." Words fell like stones. Julian couldn't believe what he heard. Lucia, clinging to neck, shook head forcefully, and between sobs managed to say, "It's not true. Dad, she never gives me anything when you're not here." That testimony so clear, so honest, left room wrapped in unbearable silence. Julian felt something break inside. They were no longer suppositions. It was naked truth on own daughter's lips. Woman tried to smile, but nervous eyes betrayed her. With empty voice insisted, "She's misinterpreting, Julian. You know I love her." "You call love leaving her hungry?" he interrupted with hardness that even surprised himself. "You call love condemning girl to rummage through trash while you rest with phone in hand?" Elena retreated on sofa, incapable of holding gaze. Lucia hid face in father's chest, seeking refuge. Rage and guilt mixed inside Julian, fire consuming and propelling him at same time. He saw himself reflected in Rolex watch on wrist, symbol of success that now seemed cruel mockery. What good were Swiss accounts, Mercedes cars and garage, if daughter knew taste of hunger? Elena, desperate, tried last resort. She rose from sofa with painted tears on face and begged, "Julian, please, give me another chance. It won't happen again." But Lucia, with broken little voice, whispered in father's ear, "Dad, I don't want her to stay." That plea was like direct shot to heart. Julian understood in that instant there was no turning back. Love isn't measured in broken promises or hollow words, but in deeds. And deeds had made clear who was failing. Room silence became unbearable. Julian breathed deeply with girl trembling in arms and pointed to door with free hand. "You have nothing more to say? This isn't your place." Elena paled. She tried to approach, but Julian raised voice like hammer that thundered in every corner of house. "Not one step more." Echo of that order made woman stop dead. Lucia hugged tighter, feeling finally someone defended her. Julian knew what came next would be painful, but decision was made. Everyone's breathing seemed contained. Elena sobbing, Julian burning with rage, Lucia clinging to him with renewed trust. And amid that unbearable tension, Julian understood battle barely began. Echo of order, not one step more, still resonated on room walls when Julian felt tension choking him. His breathing was agitated, as if he had run miles but hadn't moved from same place. With Lucia still in arms, he stared fixedly at Elena, who cried theatrically, though eyes betrayed nervousness more than repentance. Silence became unbearable. Each expensive piece of furniture, each designer lamp seemed to mock him. He had worked entire life to fill house with status symbols, Swiss watches in display cases, baccarat crystal glasses, Persian rugs, and yet essential thing. Daughter's laughter and calm escaped between fingers. "Lucia doesn't need excuses. She needs care," Julian said with grave voice, broken but firm. "I've been blind for too long." Elena took step forward, stretching hand. Julian, we can fix it, I swear. It was mistake. Lucia, with face wet with tears, hid face again in father's chest. That simple gesture was more forceful than any words. Julian stepped back and pointed to door. Leave. This house is no longer your place. Elena's door slam upon leaving vibrated on walls like final thunder. For an instant, Julian felt mansion had become even emptier, but in arms was only thing that mattered. He caressed daughter's hair and squeezed tenderly, swearing silently never again would allow something similar. Girl looked at him with eyes still trembling, but also with spark of hope. That brightness gave him blow of reality. It wasn't enough to throw out Elena. He had to face himself. His absence had been other side of abandonment. As he walked through house in silence, images from past assaulted him like lightning. He remembered Lucia's birthday when she was barely 4 years old. He was in Zurich closing financial deal and sent delivery of expensive porcelain doll with golden bow. Girl, before table without candles. Asked caretaker if dad would come blow with her. Answer was dry no. And that image now hit him with unbearable force. Forgive me, daughter, he whispered as they rocked steps. I won't fail you again. They arrived at kitchen. Julian sat her in high chair and crouched to her height. Contrast was brutal. Imported black granite countertop, limited edition espresso machine, and girl with empty tummy waiting for something as simple as dinner. Lucia, with timid voice, asked, She's really not coming back? Julian caressed cheek and responded, No, sweetheart. From now on, it'll be you and me. Little one pressed hands against father's shirt, as if wanting to make sure that promise was real. And Julian, with broken soul but determined, knew this was first stone of new beginning. However, amid that apparent calm, even more piercing memory came through again. That afternoon when he had seen photo of late wife holding baby Lucia. In daughter's eyes still shone same tenderness of mother, like silent reminder of everything he had neglected. Knot in throat grew. Echo of door slam still floated in house, but what thundered most was Lucia's innocent voice. Dad, I'm hungry. That phrase would keep haunting him, until demonstrated with deeds he could be different. Girl yawned, exhausted from crying, and rested head on shoulder. Julian carried her again with slow steps resonating on cold marble hallway. He took her toward room while in mind repeated single thought. Luxury had lost all meaning. Now only valuable thing was her, and though house was wrapped in silence, Julian knew that night would be beginning of most difficult battle of his life, redeeming himself as father. Dawn fell over New York, and mansion in upscale neighborhood was assumed in thick silence. Julian remained seated at edge of daughter's bed, observing how Lucia slept with eyes still swollen from crying. Dim lamplight reflected peaceful little face, and for first time in long while, Julian realized that innocent face was his greatest treasure. He stood slowly and walked toward living room. Echo of steps resonated on cold marble, and each corner seemed to accuse him. Dining table with German silver tableware, Swiss watch marking hours with impeccable tick-tock, Bentley parked in garage, everything screamed material success, but essential had remained in ruins. In living room solitude, memories assaulted him violently. He saw image of forgotten birthday. Lucia, barely 5 years old, waiting in kitchen next to cake bought at any supermarket. Single badly lit candle flickered amid silence. He, on other hand, was in Geneva signing contract. He had sent Dior dress for daughter as substitute for presents. Through video recorded by nanny, he saw how girl blew candle alone with smile not hiding disappointment. That wound now opened again in heart. Julian brought hands to face, suffocated by guilt. How could he have believed gifts replaced warmth of hug? How had he let Elena become guardian of something as sacred as daughter's childhood? Memory also transported him to another scene. All Saints' Day, when Lucia asked if they would go together to cemetery to bring flowers to mother. He answered with, I can't. I have important meeting. That answer, thrown with indifference, now stabbed like dagger. He rose from sofa with new impulse. Walked to Lucia's room and opened drawer of nightstand. There found small silver medallion with photo of late wife embracing newborn girl. Julian held it between trembling fingers and tears overflowed. Medallion was reminder of everything he had promised and not fulfilled. At that moment heard Lucia's weak voice who had awakened. Dad, are you going to leave again? Julian ran to bed, knelt at side and caressed hair. "No, my life, this time I'm not leaving. This time I stay with you." Girl looked at him fixedly, as if evaluating whether those words were real or just another empty promise. Julian felt it like exam he couldn't fail. Millionaire's heart beat strongly. Decision was made. He could no longer continue living between expensive watches and painful absences. He had to redeem himself. Past pointed at him harshly, but future was still open. Lucia snuggled at side and closed eyes with sigh of relief. Julian, with medallion clutched in hand, swore silently this would be last time daughter cried from hunger or loneliness. Room air became lighter but also more fragile. Julian knew true challenge barely began. Next morning arrived with different air in upscale neighborhood mansion. Julian, who had barely slept, got up early and went straight to kitchen. There, instead of usual aroma of coffee prepared by maid or trays ready served on silver tableware, silence reigned. He opened double-door Siemens refrigerator and remained staring at shelves overflowing with products as if they were reproach. Fresh eggs, sourdough bread, whole milk, simple things that paradoxically daughter hadn't received in days. Lucia appeared barefoot, dragging teddy bear with disheveled hair. She rubbed eyes with timid gesture. Julian greeted her with nervous smile, trying to sound natural. "Today I prepare breakfast." Girl looked at him incredulous, as if those words were too good to be true. Julian turned on cooktop and with clumsy movements broke eggs in steel pan. Oil sizzled and warm smell began filling kitchen. Lucia sat at high table observing each gesture of father, as if not wanting to lose detail. He, accustomed to signing contracts with Mont Blanc pen, or wearing Rolex at business meetings, felt strange beating eggs and cutting bread, but there was new tenderness in each movement. Upon placing plate before daughter, hands trembled more than when closing $1,000,000 deal. "Try it, sweetheart." Lucia took fork and began eating anxiously, bite after bite, as if fearing it would disappear. Julian watched her in silence with knot in throat. Each bite was mute confession of what she had suffered. Tears welled in eyes but contained them not to worry her. At that moment, silver medallion he had found previous night shone on table. Julian opened it and looked at photo of late wife with newborn Lucia in arms. It was as if she, from eternity, reminded him of duty. "Daughter, you'll never again have to search for food where there isn't any," he whispered, caressing cheek. Lucia raised gaze with mouth still full and smiled at him for first time in long while. That timid and fragile smile illuminated kitchen more than any designer lamp. Julian felt something inside recomposed. After breakfast, decided to take her to school himself. He opened garage and black Bentley gleamed under morning light. But that morning, placing Lucia in back seat, didn't feel pride of luxury but responsibility of being present father. Car could be expensive, but true treasure went seated behind, adjusting seatbelt with innocence. During journey, Julian spoke of simple things: Central Park, flowers that would soon adorn city for fall season, donuts with hot chocolate they could share on weekend. Lucia listened in silence, clutching teddy bear, as if wanting to believe all that would be real. When they arrived at school, Julian leaned toward her. "This afternoon I pick you up, okay? There'll be no driver or excuses." Girl nodded slowly. That promise was sacred pact Julian knew must fulfill at all costs. As he watched her enter through school door with small backpack hanging from shoulders, Julian understood true wealth wasn't in Swiss watches or bank accounts. It was in that simple instant, father accompanying daughter to class. Upon returning home, stopped instant in kitchen still impregnated with breakfast aroma. Silver medallion remained on table shining under sun entering through window. Julian took it in hand and hung it around neck. It was symbol. Silent promise never again would fail. And yet, while adjusting medallion, dark doubt pierced him. Would he be capable of sustaining that change in world, reclaiming him with contracts and endless meetings? Autumn advanced over New York with cold and luminous air. Julian, dressed in Italian suit but without stiffness of before, walked hand in hand with Lucia through Central Park. Fallen leaves crunched under shoes and girl laughed, chasing pigeons as if had forgotten nights of hunger and silence. Julian's eyes moistened seeing her so light, so free, because each laugh was testimony they were starting over. At nearby stand bought some wafers from street vendor. Lucia nibbled with pleasure while he remembered how months ago could barely look at her without feeling weight of guilt. Now each simple gesture was gift. Decided to take her afterward to downtown square, where bustle of tourists mixed with aroma of coffee and ham. At Terrace ordered hot chocolate and freshly fried donuts. They served it in white porcelain. Nothing ostentatious. And Julian was surprised to discover that simple snack moved him more than dinners with silver tableware and very expensive wines. Lucia looked at him with lips stained with chocolate and told him with disarming sincerity, "Dad, now I feel happy." Julian gently squeezed daughter's hand. That simple phrase was greatest reward of life. Everything else, Bentley, Rolex, contracts signed with Montblanc, faded before those 5 words. As afternoon fell, walked together toward Cathedral, where city seemed to breathe history and faith. Julian lit candle with Lucia and in silence thanked for second chance life was giving him. He didn't ask for more wealth or success, only strength not to fail again. Returning home, luxury car remained parked without importance. What really counted was Lucia's laughter from back seat, inventing songs and asking simple things. What flowers would they plant in garden? If they could make cake on Sunday? If they could go again to swings? Julian answered everything patiently, discovering those conversations were worth more than any business meeting. Already at mansion, dinner was improvised. Hot soup and fresh bread. They sat together at table without servants or formalities. Julian served with own hands, and Lucia, upon tasting, exclaimed with joy, "It's delicious." Echo of that phrase filled house with warmth that had been absent too long. Julian realized mansion was no longer museum of expensive objects, but home where love began to be reborn. When he tucked her in bed, Lucia handed him teddy bear to take care of during night. Julian hugged it solemnly as if it were treasure. Girl closed eyes peacefully, and he stayed at side until breathing became slow. In silence, caressed silver medallion hanging from neck. It was constant reminder of wife and everything lost by prioritizing work, but now also symbol of what he was building. Different life where family came first. He looked out window. City shone in distance with lights twinkling. Julian breathed deeply. Path wouldn't be easy. Temptations to return to old life would always be there. But while listening to soft breathing of sleeping daughter, New had chosen correct route. Silence was no longer cold or empty. It was warm silence, full of new promises. Julian closed eyes and promised himself once more never again to forget essential. Because true wealth wasn't in banks, but in small hand he had felt clutched to his throughout day. In murmur of city that never sleeps, image of father and daughter sharing hot chocolate in downtown square becomes indelible memory. It wasn't Swiss watches or luxury cars that returned smile to girl, but warm presence of sincere hug and fulfilled promise. And it's that sometimes truly valuable isn't measured in numbers, but in simple moments returning us to essential. If this story has moved you, leave one in comments. If you believe it could be told differently, mark 0 and tell us your feeling. Lesson is clear. Love, when lived with humility and constancy, has power to heal wounds time seem to have condemned to oblivion. Everyone deserves second chance, and everyone, rich or poor, needs home where being accepted as we are. Because true greatness isn't in what we possess, but in what we offer. Just like lamplit in window ignites hope of night traveler, gesture of kindness can guide others amid darkness. Take moment to reflect. To whom can we extend hand today? Even with small gesture. Perhaps in that simple detail lies strength of renewed life. And if this story touched your heart, share it. Perhaps another, upon hearing it, will remember it's never too late to start over.